Every new and used car, every truck, even factory.
We'll wrap up for the game tonight on Eyewitness News at 6. Steve?
All right, thank you very much, Frank. Frank Ford in Chicago, and right now Don Shula has come out to speak to us about Marco Coleman, the fine linebacker from Georgia Tech, who they picked with the 12th selection. Let's go in and listen to Coach Shula.
We felt going into Indianapolis that this was one of the top players coming out of the draft, and he didn't work out well at Indianapolis. He had a slower time than we had expected, and then we sent coaches in there and scouts in there to retime him, and after he had a chance to work on the drills and the things that he would be tested on, he timed out much better the second time that we went in, and so we felt better about the speed. The production is there. This guy is a very, very productive football player. He's made plays as a run defender. He's strong against the run, and he's also put pressure on the passer. Tom will give you the statistics on that. But we just felt that with that 12th pick that we wanted to get a football player that we had a conviction on, and this is a guy that we really liked going into the draft, and we're happy to have him. We're going to use him as a nickel rusher, and we're going to use him as a linebacker on early downs. And we're going to just see how that works out for us. But we've seen him do both. As a linebacker, we're thinking about sending him time, similar to what the Saints do with Swilling. He could be that kind of a linebacker.
Marco Coleman, the fine outside linebacker from Georgia Tech, and I think a sensational afternoon here for the Dolphins so far in getting Coleman in the 12th pick.
Memory to think back to last year when the Cowboys dealt with the Patriots for the #1 overall slot. They got Russell, Maryland. New England got extra picks. Both teams were happy then. Sam Jankovic, Jimmy Johnson used to work together at Miami. It all adds up, doesn't it? And if it doesn't add up, we've got Chris Myers to show all the work. We get full credit if you show your work, Chris.
All right, well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, the reason the Patriots may be talking is they have an interest in Dana Hall.
Las condiciones del tiempo. Regresa el buen tiempo a Montana, pero por aquí tenemos un sistema.
But last year, the catchphrase in Dallas was signability that Jerry Jones pushed. This year, it may be slotting. An interesting fact is we take a peek in the draft room and see what the Cowboys are doing. Jerry Jones has said the slotting is what he obviously can't negotiate with the draft choices before they are selected on the clock, which was the 10th pick last year, plus a 12% increase as we watch Jimmy and Jerry looking over their draft list. They're in the draft room here, as we see. Across from Jimmy Johnson is Bob Ackles, the personnel director. Now, what Jerry Jones says the slotting does is, obviously, it tells the player about how much money he's going to make, and across the board, if he's a 10th pick, that's what he'll get. In this case, it would be the 13th selection. So, again, Jerry Jones has 10 representatives out across the country physically on location with contracts ready, and if they can't sign that player that's on the board, then they will move down to the next player, the one that they can get to agree to a contract. There may be a deal with the Colts. The Cowboys could trade down. If not, Kevin Smith is the top defensive back on the board, followed by Darrell Williams out of the University of Miami. Let's go over to Indianapolis now and Chris Mortensen.
That's right, Chris. There's a lot of activity here with the Colts. They've traded Eric Dickerson. They have a void at running back. They would love to take Von Dunbar, the Indiana running back, and they've been talking to Miami. They've been talking to Dallas in this spot. But Dallas has also got something going with the Detroit Lions because the Lions want Derek Brown, the tight end from Notre Dame.
All right, Chris, thank you. Well, they've got a chance, and you know the Lions are interested in a tight end with Dan Henning now there. Forget the run and shoot totally. We'll talk about the Lions. They don't draft to the third to bottom. But both of the big tight ends, Derek Brown and Johnny Mitchell, name you should remember from Nebraska, also interested in them, are the next two teams perhaps after Dallas, the Giants and the Jets. So maybe that's why a lot of discussion is going on right now. 34 trades or 34 slots have been traded by the Jimmy and Jerry era in Dallas, and it hasn't been that long. So war room cam, phone line, let's see, on the clock's about 3 minutes and 40 seconds left for the first of two selections for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, it's interesting, all those guys that are around the country that Chris Myers said. It sounds like Jerry Jones has more representatives than McDonald's has franchises, the way they're looking at all these players. But he mentioned, oh, there's a trade. We'll pick that up in a minute.
Details in a little bit.
It is Dallas and New England. So New England is now on the clock. So I I was going to ask you, they mentioned the name Dana Hall, Mel, but it seemed too early to talk about him, but now we don't have to because New England's another story.
Well, New England needs a defensive back. Their safety position was woeful last year. Dana Hall's an interesting guy. He played cornerback at Washington, had some prior experience early in his career at that safety spot. A couple weeks ago, he was helping a friend fix his car, got his hand caught in the fan belt, and had some damage to his hand, which concerned some teams, but now they say that this morning that's not a big concern. But still, if you take Dana Hall this early, you're taking him ahead of Dale Carter, a guy that can play safety or cornerback, great productive player at Tennessee. Darrell Williams, safety at Miami, who if it goes back to Miami next year, say, probably would have been a top 5 pick. And also Kevin Smith, a cornerback from A&M. But if you're looking at Dana Hall as a safety, I don't know how you can take him. Dale Carter and Darrell Williams, 2 of the most productive defensive backs in the country the last 2 years.
All right, here's the details of the trade, Mel. Let's listen in.
The Dallas Cowboys trade this selection, which they obtained from Minnesota, and the choice in the 3rd round that they obtained from Minnesota, which is the 71st choice in this draft, to New England for the 1st choice from Atlanta, number 19 in the draft, New England's 2nd choice, which is the 37th choice in this draft, and Atlanta's 4th round choice, which is the 104th in this draft. So Dallas trades Minnesota's 1st and 3rd to New England for Atlanta's 1st, New England's 2nd, and Atlanta's 4th.
Let us boil this down real quickly, because if I'm not mistaken, and guys correct me if I'm wrong, Dallas still has 2 first-round picks. And as I see it, they have, what, 3 second-round picks?
3 second-round picks.
So 5 picks in the first 2 rounds, 5 picks in the first, let's see, only 12, 5 picks in the first 40, if I add that up correctly, which means, Mel, let's go back to something you said. We had a Super 6 and a couple of interesting players like Klingler, etc. that we'll jumble. Here's New England's pick first. Back, Paul Tagliabue comparing red ties.
With the 13th choice in this meeting, the New England Patriots select Eugene Chung, tackle, Virginia Tech. The Giants are up next.
Well,
that makes sense.
They wanted a guard. They have 2 good tackles in Harlow and certainly Bruce Armstrong. Searcy, who we mentioned before, and Chung are the guys that they may be tackles, but they can also play guard. All those sacks you mentioned, Joe, came up through the middle. It's a good pick, good solid pick for New England.
It's not only a good solid pick, Fritz, it's a pick they needed. We talked about Pat Harlow. Pat Harlow has a back problem. It's become obvious. He had problems last year, had surgery before, looking at maybe surgery again. Sam wants to solidify that offensive line. He and Coach McPherson know that if they can protect Millen, they've got the quarterback they want, the offensive line will take care of itself. Defensively, they're happy. They weren't looking for a quarterback controversy, so they weren't going to go after Klingler. That makes sense. They realize that they need a guy who can help them get the 3rd and 1s and protect the passer on the 3rd and 5s. Chung's going to be the guy. He'll step in and start right away and help them out, Mel.
I wouldn't go that direction, Joe. If I'm New England and I'm trading up, Eugene Chung's a fine player. He can play guard or tackle, but when you're trading up, you have to go for an impact defensive back as a safety, a guy that can come right in and do what Ronnie Lott did. I think you take, at this point, a Dale Carter or a Darrell Williams. I think that's the area you have to improve if you're the New England Patriots, and trading up, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense at this point, simply because the 2 best players that will help them are the 2 defensive backs. Chung, a good player overall, versatile. Some question about how motivated he is to just blow people off the ball on a regular basis. And if you're looking at him as a guard, that's a projection inside from tackle to a certain extent, since he never really played that position. So a guy that would have figured, say, mid to late 1st round. In fact, some teams I talked to thought that maybe you could slide out of the 1st round into the early 2nd round. And now you have the Patriots not only taking this guy, but trading up to acquire his services. I disagree with the choice.
Well, I tell you what, you look at the depth chart of the Patriots and you're looking for the name John Hanna at guard. It's not there anymore. Their depth chart in the middle is completely different. So now that's why you know that the Patriots are singing Wang Chung tonight. He fits right in. He can move right in.